Hi, this is Liz with Big Hairy Dog, and today we're going to go ahead and be going over PI in version 8 of Retail Pro. We're going to go ahead and get started here in just a minute. I'm just waiting on a few more people to go ahead and join on in. So just hang tight. Again, this is Liz with Big Hairy Dog, and today's webinar we're going to be focusing on PI for Retail Pro version 8. Thanks so much. We'll be starting in just a minute. All right. And so we're going to go ahead and get started for today. Again, my name is Liz with Big Hairy Dog. This webinar is going to be focusing on Retail Pro version 8. And so there's a few things that I wanted to go ahead and just mention. We're going to be going through. As we're going through, feel free to raise your hand and ask questions. We're going to have more than enough time to go ahead and answer any questions that you guys have. If you're going through this and you see something that you don't have on your screen, or you're not quite sure how we got a button in a certain place, please feel free to go ahead and again raise your hand. It's just really, that's as easy as showing you how to right click, something I could definitely do on the webinar. Anything that is a little deeper, of course, you can feel free to ask. I'll go ahead and at that time let you know if it's something that I would suggest that we get you on the line with a trainer or a tech. Now, there is a few things that we do to prepare for a PI. Now, we will recommend that you guys hopefully can close your stores for the PI. It just tends to make things a little bit smoother to not have to worry about selling items, or really worry about counting the items before we sell them. Because Retail Pro does take a snapshot of your inventory and will go ahead and be able to understand that, well, we had 10, we sold one, that means there's now 9. But if we don't count those extra ones that get sold, it does go ahead and throw a wrench into our numbers when we're actually updating our PI. And as we all know, the point of a PI is to have accurate quantities. So we always recommend that you guys try to go ahead and have the store closed. Of course, if you absolutely can't, please, I would say give us a call for some best practices and some tips. But other than that, it's just a little bit of a juggling. The other thing, if you are a single store, there's not a whole lot that you have to do in regards to prepping, besides the fact that we asked, or that you should go ahead and get all of your inventory vouchered in, or hold it and voucher it after your PI is complete. You do not want to be doing anything that would adjust your inventory quantities while you're running your PI. For a multi-store environment, we're going to go ahead and ask that you guys of course, your store is closed, you finish up for the day, and then you quick poll. Quick poll to make sure that you have the most accurate inventory from the main. And that's going to go ahead and avoid any potential, issues when you're in the middle of your PI. And of course, pause any transfers and receiving as well. So especially with a multi-store environment, those transfers, can come up and surprise you if you're not ready for them, and suddenly you have a whole group of items on your back door while you guys are in the middle of counting for your PI. So just avoid those situations with a little bit of prep. All right. And so as you can see, we're going to go ahead and go through kind of our basics. The other thing is a backup. So always, always, always safe, always recommended that you go ahead and do a backup before you make any massive changes to your inventory. And that PI is definitely going to go ahead and qualify for that. This is also a great opportunity to check if your backups are running. Retail Pro does take care of the first tier of backup, and we do ask that people have that second tier of off-site backups, but we occasionally forget to do it. And we forget to check. So check those backups, make sure that we have an accurate one, and then do another backup, especially if you had a full day of sales before we went ahead and started our PI. If we're doing this after closing, make sure you back up. Knock on wood, we don't need it, but if we do, it'll be there. We can go back to the way things were right before we started our PI. The other thing that is optional that some people do like to go ahead and run is a on-hand report. So the on-hand report is just helpful to go ahead and have as a comparison, and like I said, not required but optional. I would say backing up your data before you run the PI is going to be much more important. If you're going to remember one of the two, I would definitely say it's going to be the backup. All right, so we did have a few other people join us. So really quick, I'm just going to go ahead and remind everyone, if you're a single store, we do recommend that you close your store and you either voucher in all of your inventory before you start, or you pause vouchering that inventory in until after your PI. For a multi-store environment, you're going to want to pause transfers, pause vouchering, and especially you're going to want a quick pull before you start. Quick pull and then back up. All right. The other thing that you guys are going to want to do is if you're using a scanner, before you start your PI, we do want to go ahead and test that those scanners are accurate. If you own those scanners, it's probably been about a year since we've dusted them off and grabbed them. So make sure that all of our connections still work, and you can do a quick test upload. And we'll show you how to go ahead and run through that. If you rent your scanners from Big Hairy Dog, we're always going to go ahead and make sure that we get you an appointment to set them up. Usually we do that the day before you guys want to start your PI. So if you guys have any questions on renting scanners or trading appointments for PI, please let us know. One thing I wanted to go ahead and show you guys, we have a physical inventory manual. And we have different versions of this manual. I'm going to be using the Palm and Janum one just to kind of guide us through our PI here, but we have some for manual, some for Excel imports as well. Unfortunately, I don't actually have a Palm scanner or a Janum scanner attached to my machine, so I'm going to be showing you a little bit more of the manual route, which is why I want you guys to be able to see the PDF at least. All right. So phase one is going to be our preparation. So this is where we're going to go ahead and have you guys break out your store into what we call zones. Now, there are some stores that run what we refer to as a simple physical. Now, we normally advise against a simple physical. Although the name is tantalizing and it sounds like it's going to be easy and simple, it's essentially you're saying we're putting all of our scans, all of our inventory into one giant pool versus a zone is going to be more like buckets. As you can see here, we have our brown zone, our green zone, purple zone, and those zones are each pretty small. If we have a discrepancy in any of those zones, I know where to look, and I'm not looking through my entire pool of inventory for that discrepancy. So that's why we always go ahead and recommend zones. Now, as you can see here, this is a pretty standard zone map. And so this is something we always recommend. Pretty easy to do. You don't have to get as fancy with the color coding. I even see people just using tape. Painter's tape will tape the floor. This zone is blue zone. This zone is the red zone. Don't cross these lines. And we know everyone is going to go ahead and everyone's going to be on the same page. No one's going to accidentally count another zone. This is a really important step, and I will say that most people who take the time to go ahead and build these zones just experience less problems overall a little bit later on down the line. All right. Of course, for our multi-store customers, again, this is going to go ahead and remind you to initialize your inventory as well. So quick pull, something I forgot to mention, I apologize, but we're quick pulling, we're initializing our inventory, and we are backing up for our multi-store environment. All right. And so this part here, I'm going to kind of bypass. If you have done a physical before, or if you are ready to start your physical, then you should have already done most of this part here, selecting what you're going to go ahead and use for your device if you are going to use a portable device and setting up those workstation preferences. Again, if you have any issues with this, please give us a call. We are more than happy to go ahead and walk you through that setup. Um, and so that brings us to step three, really the part that you guys are going to go ahead and be working on yourselves. And so this is my Retail Pro 8. Under Tools, I have this option for More. And in my More, I have my RPRO PI. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that. All right. So like I said, there are some workstation preferences and system preferences that we can set up. I just wanted to hop in for a moment and show you guys where you can switch that from physical to use zones if you are using a simple physical currently. This is also where we can decide on what we are initializing our inventory by, whether that be ALU, UPC, or item number. For me, I'm going to go ahead and leave that at ALU. Actually, we'll leave that at item number here. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. All right, so we are still in our RPRO PI. I'm going to go ahead and come over here to physical. And you see I have my stores and my zones. We're going to start at my store level. So we always have to start at the store level. We build the store level PI. This is where we get a chance to take our snapshot of our inventory. I'm going to hit new, started by our admin. We can leave that as is. The important part is selecting our store. Now, normally you're not going to go ahead and select all. There might be some companies that run it that way and they really take charge of their store's inventory as well. But most of the time you're going to select your own store. You are counting for the store that you are physically in. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and you can add additional notes, but they are not required. I'm going to hit OK. All right, and so I did not point this out, but you have the option of pre-filtering your inventory. Now, for a complete PI, you will not filter for anything. We want it as open as possible. We want to catch everything that's in our store. Now, I did set this up so I can show you guys, but this is also an option if you wanted to do what we refer to as a cycle count. Let's say we only wanted to run a physical for a specific vendor or a specific department. Or maybe we don't necessarily have the time to do one complete PI, so we're going to do it in sections. And so this is a way that we can go ahead and do that. And I can remind you guys where that is if we have any questions on that. But for right now, I'm just going to hit OK to bypass, and it's going to take a snapshot of my entire inventory. All right, that's perfect. It builds my store level here. And now if I hop into inventory, I can see all of the inventory that was part of part of this PI. I'm going to back out. I'm going to back out once more. And now I'm going to go to zones. So we have our store. Now it's time to build our zones. And so I'm going to go ahead and just hit new. We always have to select our store. And then the zone, so for the zone names, you do want to go ahead and be mindful of a 5-character, about a 5-character limit. I've seen people make it as simple as zone 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C. Sometimes it corresponds with your department, and that makes it a little bit easier. For me, I'm going to stay really uncreative, and we're just going to call this zone A. I'm going to hit OK. All right. So for this new zone, I'm actually going to go ahead and close that really quick. Close that for just a moment. Sorry about that. Open it up to my manual entry or to my import path. We're going to talk about that in just a second, actually. All right, so we have this zone here. Now, I could go ahead and create my next zone as well. I don't necessarily need to go ahead and build a zone and then send people off and wait until they come back. We can have people working in multiple zones at the same time. Let me just really quick, we're going to go ahead and build our zone B. All right. And for right now, I'm not going to go ahead and enter any counts. I'm just going to go ahead and hit close so that way you can go ahead and see that list. But as you can see, it's already roaring to go. It's ready to go ahead and take those counts for you. All right, but now I have my zone A and my zone B, and I'm going to go ahead and be able to jump into this zone by clicking my scan. and I can see all of the scans within that zone A. And over here at the top, you can always use this to keep an eye on where you are at all times, because we will be jumping in and out of zones, in and out of our store once we start to merge those zones. So it's important that we remember, where we are and what scans go into what zones. We don't want to accidentally double dip on uploads if we're using a scanner. All right, but now I'm going to come over here to add counts. Remember, we had the opportunity to add counts right when we built it, but we can always go ahead and go back and add more. And so over here, it's a little hard to see. I apologize. We have three tabs. We have our portable terminal, import file, and manual entry. A portable terminal is what we're going to use for those Palms and Janum scanners, PT scanners. And really, once we get the setup all done for these scanners, um, this part is really easy. We essentially click this. Right now I'm not set up, so we're getting this little error message. But if you can see that waiting for download to this, to start the download, select the start send. So we have start send for some options like the Janum, it's the hot sync button. But essentially we dock our scanner and we're able to go ahead and upload it. And then we'd be able to go ahead and select the session here for an import file. This is going to be a little bit more manual. This is more like an Excel file or a CSV file that we created. And we do have to go ahead and build our import map within our system preferences first. Right now, I don't have an import map built for this, but that is something as simple as using ALU. So we begin at spot 1, and it has a length of 6. Next is my counts. I don't have to add zone names, and if I'm not using serial numbers, then I don't even need the serial numbers. Really just this is how long my identifier is. This is how long my count section is. And it can go ahead and read that for us. And up here, we would just navigate to that import map. So it has to be somewhere where we can go ahead and grab it from this PC. And then once we're done with that, we would import the file, and then we would close. And that's about it. Over here for our manual entry, this is going to be a little bit easier to show you guys. But essentially here we can type the item or scan the item. And then I have the option of after the item entry, go to next item or go to quantity for current item. So I do like to go ahead and show people the manual entry because even if we are using zones and we are using scanners, we're sending people off to go ahead and complete those zones. If I'm at home base over here and home base is our front desk, then I can even go ahead and start getting all these small tchotchkes that are at the front desk, all the lip glosses and everything. I can just scan them in and count them here myself. And so let's just go ahead and say our item number 1, quantity 10 there. And so item number 2, we're going to say a quantity of 4, item number 3, and a quantity of 2. All right. Get one more item in there, or one more count for my item number 1. So as you see, it just starts building that all the way down for us, and it doesn't double up. So if we already had an item number 1, as you can see, it just adds that to our total scan quantity. That's the other nice thing about our zones. Another good reason, because we break them out into zones, and we can deal with any inventory errors there, but ultimately we're dealing with inventory discrepancies at the store level because zone A might have 11 of item number 1 and zone B might have 2 or 3 more of item number 1. So we need to merge them into our store before we get the opportunity to see what that final count is. Keep that in mind as you're going through these zones. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and just close this and get those scans onto my screen here. And so I can go ahead and from here continue to add counts if we're not quite done just yet. But I'm going to go ahead and pop out. So now I can see my zone A and my zone B. My zone A has a total of 4 good scans and no bad scans. And when we're entering them in manually like that, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of bad scans. But when we're using what we lovingly call maybe a dummy scanner, so a scanner that does not have your inventory in it, it essentially is just reading the barcodes and keeping a tally for us. If we scan the wrong barcode and the barcode that we scan is not in our inventory, we end up with a bad scan. And that is not the end of the world. I'm actually going to go ahead and pop over here to our PDF. Come on down. One more time as a little bit of overview. This is where you can go ahead and reminding you of where you can go to change those zones, and actually where you can go ahead and go to uh, select your files or your doc designs for those zones. All right, so we went ahead and went over this. We start our physical, we start over at stores, we build our store, and then we build our zones. All right, this was that portable terminal upload, and like I said, this is for the Palmer Janum scanner, so you're going to see something like this, that hot sync, not the send receive. All right, and now we're down to handling our scanning errors. So of course, first off, don't panic. This is normal. But this is that error you're going to go ahead and get, quote unquote error. Some items were not found, scan the wrong barcode essentially. Um, and so we're going to go ahead and just hit OK and close that. And we're going to go to our errors. When we're in our errors, the nice thing about it is you can see the scan right before and right after. So again, I know what zone I'm going to, so I don't have to look through my entire inventory. I know the scan right before and I know the scan after. So I can go to that zone, find those items. Oh, there is that item I counted. Now I get to go ahead and choose what I'm going to do with that item. So if it is an item that exists in inventory and I just happen to scan the wrong code, I just need to go ahead and scan it and get those quantities correct. If it's an item that for whatever reason does not exist in Retail Pro currently, I would then probably just set it aside and have a manager put that in the system and adjust it once we're done with our PI. But you see, pretty standard, very easy to go ahead and handle errors. And then in our PI, we're just going to go ahead and delete that error because we're going to handle it a little bit later, or we're going to go ahead and upload the correct UPC ALU item number, whichever one we're using, with the correct quantities. All right, so whatever method you decide, the point is you need to remove that scanning error because we need to be able to merge that zone into our PI. All right, now we're on to phase 3. Okay, so phase 3 is merging our zones. And so that's as easy as we are saying, I'm all done with this zone. We've completely counted everything that's here at my front register. I'm waiting for my other zones to come back now. I can go ahead and merge zones, verified by my administrator, yes. And there we go. Now we get this neat little blue dot over here, and that is my visual signal that this has been merged. And since it's been merged, I can no longer edit this or add scans. If I wanted to, if there was a discrepancy or my associate came up and said, sorry, I just realized I forgot to scan this entire section of Zone A. I need to unmerge that. We need to do that again. I can come up to stores, and now I can actually see in my stores, I have those 4 scans from that zone. I can come over here to my merged zone list. And there we go. I am going to see a list of all of my merged zones. I'd be able to highlight on the zone in question and unmerge it. That way we can go ahead and make those edits and make sure that that zone is accurate. Still on the store level, I can go ahead and click into discrepancies. And here is a list of all of my discrepancies so far. So we've only merged in one zone with quite a limited number of items. So I have quite the number of discrepancies here. You can actually go ahead and print these so that you can go ahead and see a little bit more about what's going on. We can have people go and spot check these. We can create a little hit list. And so I had some very standard very standard doc designs that come out of the box for Retail Pro. Big Hairy Dog has some additional designs, and you might have some that are custom made for you. In any case, if you have this design and you want to take a look at some of the additional options we have, let us know. We can go ahead and find something, or we can help you build something that might work a little bit better. We have a few that actually have a section where we can go ahead and put that second count, essentially just a box where our associates can confirm the count quantity, especially for our more expensive items. All right. And so besides that, over here, just like in the rest of our inventory, as you can see, I kind of did it by accident here when I was clicking, but anything that has that little dot in front of it, we'd be able to go ahead and sort by that field. And something that's a little bit easier to go ahead and sort by our DCS or vendor code, followed by anything else. We can also go ahead and utilize our filtered view in this. All right. But essentially, we want to make sure that we're paying attention to our discrepancies, and ultimately, if we are okay with these discrepancies or we understand why these discrepancies have happened, then we can update our PI. If we're not okay with these discrepancies and we want to go ahead and spot check again, we can unmerge our zones and we can go ahead and recount and confirm that everything looks good. Go ahead and hop on out. All right. I know we've gone through a lot of information kind of relatively quickly here. Do we have any questions so far? All right. I'm not seeing any hands raised just yet. So I'm going to go ahead and take a quick step back, and we're going to go ahead and jump back into our zone B for a moment. So one more time, I'm going to go ahead and go into scanned. And from here, I'm going to add count. And we can do that from the manual entry. And let's just go ahead and say item number 3. You see, in this one, I did not change it to quantity for current items. So essentially, as soon as I'm done, it scans and just adds all of that quantity for me. I don't have too many items in my inventory, my little test inventory here. So it is pretty easy just to go ahead and kind of fly through this. But of course, this is where you'd be scanning your actual barcodes in. And there we go. So this is what you're going to go ahead and see when you're trying to enter something in manually that doesn't exist. It's an unknown item or a duplicate or a non-inventory item. It's a little bit vague with what it is, but essentially this item does not exist in our PI inventory. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit close here. And then that's something that you might, of course, word it a little differently, but that's something that you might also get on your scanner if you're using what we refer to as a smart scanner. So a smart scanner, for those of you who might not have had the chance to use one just yet, is a scanner that we can upload your PI inventory to that scanner. So at time of scanning these items, it can tell you, hey, this doesn't exist in the PI, and we have the option of dealing with it right then and there instead of bringing it into Retail Pro and dealing with it in Retail Pro. So when you're using a smart scanner, you might not actually ever run into errors in Retail Pro, but you might run into them on the floor. And so with those smart scanners, I will take this moment to go ahead and hop on my soapbox and remind you to check your barcodes. We always want to make sure that our barcodes are scannable by those scanners. I've had some issues where unfortunately those barcodes that are left out on the floor and in the sun's direct light are just much too light for the scanners to go ahead and read. So we have to go ahead and get a little more creative and a little bit more manual with that one. All right, but I got these items. So now I can go ahead and jump back out. So now you can see, I have my single scan, or excuse me, my single zone already merged into my store PI, and I have my secondary zone ready to go. Let's say again, we're all done. I have no bad scans, or if I did have a bad scan, I have dealt with that, and I've gotten that corrected quantity either into this same zone, or what a lot of people do is we'll actually go ahead and hit new here, and then we have a zone. Actually, we'll call it core. I forgot about my own limitation there. And then corrections. And then we can go ahead and kind of save all of our corrections for one final zone to get merged in together at the end. Let's go ahead and just say we got at least a few in here. All right. And so now I can again merge my zone. The other thing that you can do is you can go ahead and mark the store. As soon as we go ahead and mark the store, and remember we are limiting it to just a single store in this case, it's going to mark these zones for merging. So I can go ahead and unmark, or I can merge marked over here, and that's a way you can go ahead and merge multiple zones at one time. Let me go ahead and say merge marked, and there we go. So now all of our zones are merged. I can go ahead and come out one more time, jump into my stores, and now I can see those total 21 good scans for my inventory. And again, I can take a look at my discrepancy list. I can see what my original start quantity was, what my store physical was, so my scan quantity, and then the difference between the two. All right, and so let's go ahead and hop on out. Again, I can go ahead and go over to my merge zone list. And for any one of these, I can go ahead and unmerge them if need to. Other than that, let me go ahead and hop back on in here. So again, just a little bit of a review here. So we can mark the store and merge marked. Review your discrepancies from your stores. And this is going to be probably more like what a real environment is going to look like. Quite a few discrepancies that we have to go ahead and deal with. Well, hopefully not a whole lot. All right. And so, again, you might want to go ahead and print the list so that you can go ahead and run it over and spot check, especially for those high ticket items. And now we can go ahead and update your PI. For multi-store clients, there's a little bit of for this is remote stores, you can go ahead and update and then do a quick pull and process in at the main. And so remember, quick polling is in general, very important to multi-store environments always, and of course would play an important role in PI as well. Over here in my single store though, if I just hit update, make sure I select my store, I can always go ahead and use that select all as well, especially in a single store. It doesn't make much of a difference. All right, so notes not required, but would be helpful, especially if anything popped up that you noticed. But over here is really the important part. What are we updating? Are we updating all items? All items would be for that complete physical. Items, only items with a physical count. Although, tempting, this would not cover any of your negative quantity items. If we update all items and then an item had a -1 with no scan quantity, will get adjusted to 0. Only items with a physical count, only if we actually scan them will they be updated. So an important distinction for me, I'm going to go ahead and say all items. This was a complete physical, so if I did not count it, I do not physically have it in my store. My reason, let me just pop in a PI reason. There we go. We can also go ahead and set these reasons up to be selectable via a drop down, but then, as you can see, I can just go ahead and type it on in. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Sorry about that. I pulled this back. And that's just something that you don't have to do. It's something I unfortunately just had to go ahead and do on my system. All right, I think I might have to go ahead and cancel out of here. I apologize. That is something I had to go ahead and change the date on my system for my Retail Pro. It's not something that you'd run into. You guys would have an adjustment file for the month that you are currently in. If you do get to this point and you hit that error, give us a call. Absolutely give us a call. We need to go ahead and take a look at what's going on and why it can't see your file. We might have to go ahead and reconstruct a little bit, but we don't want you to lose any scans. And so go ahead and give us a call. At this point, especially, you're just about done with PI. So let me go ahead and hop back over here. But essentially, we're at that updating our PI. We select our stores, and then all items is going to be that physical store. All right, and then we go ahead and finish it up. And then once we hit finish, all of your inventory is updated so long as we selected all quantities. And as you can deduce from the fact that we got that little adjustment memo error, uh, this tool essentially just creates a giant adjustment memo for us. Um, the main difference between doing this on an adjustment memo, of course, though, is on an adjustment memo, we don't have all the tools available to us, like these zones, discrepancies, and error tools. So just keep it in mind. You can go ahead and run small cycle counts and just kind of update it via an adjustment memo if you're not quite ready to do a complete physical. All right. And so from there, we can go ahead and just get the update results. Our store 1 has been updated. And now this quick guide to a smart scan, we talked a little bit about this again, but that smart scan is you having your inventory on the actual scanner, so that way we can go ahead and catch those bad scans, those errors at time of scanning. If you'd like a little bit more information on any of our smart scanners or possibly purchasing a smart scanner, please give us a call. We'd be happy to go ahead and walk you through that. All right. And so that brings us pretty much to the end of our PI. Like I said, I know that was a lot of information to go through relatively quickly. So I'm going to hang out here. If anybody has any questions at all, please let us know. And if you have any need for PI training or any troubleshooting, again, we can go ahead and let me know now. We can kind of get the ball rolling on that for you. But other than that, like I said, we've gone through a complete physical. We've updated my small inventory here, and so I wish everyone, a good day. If you don't have any further questions. All right. So it looks like we do have a hand raised. And so Adam, I went ahead and your mic is live. Perfect. If you have one.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So our team store manager recently left, and we're kind of trying to pick up the scraps. I work in the accounting department, and we're going to be the ones kind of running the PI. And kind of just a few questions, like how long would you guys typically allocate time-wise to get a store done?
Yeah, I would say depending on the size of the store and how much help you have. I have seen, a pretty impressive number of people tackle a large store in one day. But normally if you have, quite a large store, quite a large inventory, I see people breaking that out into two days. But the average, I would say, is one single day. We don't want to be closed for that long. And a fast inventory would be after closing. We're just kind of doing it in the middle of the night and sending people home, and letting those people work the late shift the next day.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but the more prep you do, the faster it'll be. Definitely. The more thought we can put into our zone maps and be really strategic about who's counting what, and everyone knows their job, the faster you'll be. In addition to, go ahead.
So, and like retagging and stuff like that is part of the prep work, right?
Yes. Yeah. Double checking that do you have scanners? Are you going to be using scanners?
I'm pretty sure we do. We're kind of unbearing from down there. It's literally we're winging it basically. So.
Oh, and we're here for you.
Yeah.
But if you have scanners, I might see, depending on how many you have, on possibly maybe renting one or two more. Again, depending on how many you have and depending on how many people are going to be with you. Because the more people we have counting, the faster it'll go, really. And then if you're using the scanners, that's going to be much faster than doing a manual or via the import map. And the nice thing about renting one is that we'll help you set them up, and we'll make sure that you have the training usually the day before, the day after. This webinar is also going to be emailed to you and to everybody who attended this webinar. We also have a little bit more of a lengthy webinar back from June of this year as well that went over V8 from a different trainer. And I would definitely suggest looking at that. Getting the same information from multiple people, you usually retain it a little bit better, the second time around, the third time around that you get to watch the videos. But yeah, I would
Yeah.
say.
Is that just like on your guys' help page, like with the YouTube channel, or?
Yeah. Actually,
Okay.
let me go ahead and pop this open really quick. And then this is great.
We've definitely been frequenting that page.
Good. Yeah. No, I'm glad to hear it for you. Everybody who is also in attendance, if you don't know about it just yet, we have our customer center, and in our customer center, we have a training section. Our training section has a lot of absolutely great training videos for V9, V8, QuickBooks, point of sale. Even if we're on V8, we want to check out what V9 looks like. This is a really good way of doing that. And so we have our upcoming webinar and our previously recorded webinars, and our V8 one, there we go, June 1st, V8 physical inventory. So unfortunately, I believe Len also did not have a scanner when she did this one. So we are, talking about it a little bit more. But like I said, we'll definitely check out this one. And there's another one from a little bit, I think from 2019 that was done by Jeff. So you're getting all the range of trainer flavors here.
Awesome. And then, sorry, one more. What's the typical rental cost for a scanner?
You got me.
Okay.
So sorry. I would
No,
need
you're
to
fine.
defer to our sales teams over there. I try to keep my hands clean of that. But I can go ahead and, is it all right that I go ahead and email you and kind of, let them know that you might be interested in a quote possibly?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Perfect. So I'll go ahead and make that note, and I'll go ahead and let them know that you'd be interested. Do you happen, well, I'll ask you a little bit more in the email as well to get some more information.
Okay, that sounds great.
All right. Do you have any other questions for me now?
No, that's good for now.
All right. Perfect. Thanks so much, Adam. So I'll go ahead and mute your mic again so you don't feel, too put on the spot. But if anybody else has a question, please feel free to go ahead and raise your hand. Again, we'll be here for a little bit longer. For anybody else that is ready to go ahead and head out and tackle their PI, I wish you good luck. All right, we have no hands, so I think I'm going to go ahead and end a little bit early here. So thank you everybody who joined and participated, and for all who joined and hung out. You guys have a great rest of your day. And like I said, you'll be seeing this email hopefully soon. If not, probably in the next few days. I know we have a little bit of a queue for our videos at the moment. But thanks so much. Again, my name is Liz. Oh, and actually, before I go, if anybody does have some final questions that they remember as soon as they get off, because believe you me, I do the same. Um, If I can spell. So this is my email, lizm@bighairydog.com. Please feel free to go ahead and shoot me a quick email if you have any questions, or if you don't see that webinar link in your email sometime soon, we'll go ahead and make sure that we get that to you. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great one.